My name is Ashley, and I am a recovered addict and alcoholic. I have just recently recovered, and being with the program has been great. So I guess I'll just start with, at a young age, I had a great life. I had parents who were good to me. I had everything I needed growing up on the farm, but I was exposed to a lot of different things when I was a kid, whether it was addiction or alcohol, substance abuse, and just, abuse in general from different parts of my life. And I don't know where exactly it went wrong, but my faith was pretty good when I was younger. I was going to church. I was with the family. I wanted to serve God and everything. But at a certain point in my age, I started to rebel. And like we all do, we all sometimes pick and choose sometimes in our lives where we just stray away from the things that we were meant to do. And I remember my dad and stepmom's wedding. I was 8 years old and I got drunk and ended up in the hospital. It was not my intention, when you got into the little bits of things, but that was one of the days where I was like, God, I love this. It felt great, but fortunately I got really sick from it. Should have learned my lesson then, because as I got older, the alcohol kind of just continued with my life and everything. So I guess jumping ahead to 12 years old, I started getting into a lot of other drugs. I was denied from a lot of different places in my life. I felt out of place with friends. I changed schools a lot. I was back and forth. My brother and I had a hard time with each other at that age, where we had to be separated into different homes. Otherwise, our parents were going to lose us. And we used to fight. We had a lot of anger issues towards each other. And some days it was worse than others, where one of us was in the hospital. And I don't know really where it started or how it started, but I got into smoking fentanyl at 13 years old. And that was one of my first go-tos when I was younger, between that and alcohol. And that's where it just took off. I abused drugs until I was about 19 years old, just getting into worse and worse and worse stuff until the end. And when I got to a point in my life where I was happy, I used to actually do some things that were wrong, selling and stuff like that. And people were dying off my supply. So I stopped selling it, but I kept doing it because I didn't give a crap about myself. I was a ride or die type of person. I was getting into illegal shit. And when I was 17, I was faced at an ultimatum. And, it was jail or change your life. And I changed part of my life, but I didn't change all of it. And I tried to make an honest living, but I hated it. So 19, I was so heavily addicted to drugs, it was literally killing me. And then I found a good job. I became a union member and everything, so I decided to quit. Whether I was using or quitting, it tried to kill me. And I was dying in the hospital. And it was not a proud moment of my life. My parents, were coming to say goodbye. And all I had to do was be honest with the doctors. So I actually was able to get the help I needed. And things did get better from there, addiction-wise. I was still pretty heavy into drinking and stuff like that, but I ended up, being with somebody I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. We had a beautiful daughter, everything like that. And of course, things change. It's never what it seems, but we all have our path and everything happens for a reason. I'd say about 6 years ago now, I'm not going to say I had some freedom, but I worked a lot and I needed an escape. So, well, for 18 years, still smoking and this and that and drinking and everything, I could not get rid of certain habits. And I guess a couple years ago, after my daughter's father and I split, like 6 years ago, I was getting to a point where I was struggling with the changes in my life. So the heavy alcoholism set in, and I continued on with the drinking, and it just got worse and worse. And last year at some point, it got even worse. And I started going down a pretty dark path. I was not able to see my daughter. And that was not because of the issues of my addictions. And it was just more or less because of her dad's an ass. But not going to get into that. But it's when you do everything you can to provide for the people you love in your life and they take everything away from you. I tried to fill that void, and that void was drugs and alcohol. Mid-summer last year, after 11 years of being clean from heavy drugs, I had a huge relapse, and it just took off from there, and everything just got worse from the gambling, the drinking and driving. Like I had an accident last May, and it could have been way worse than what it was. I got lucky, and then I said, I'm never going to do this again. What do I do the next day? Do it again. And as the summer kind of finished up and stuff like that, like I was in a pretty serious relationship. And I know some of you guys did know him and stuff like that. And unfortunately, the addiction took him and it killed me. And that's when I knew I had to change. Either it was going to be me or my daughter losing her mother. And I tried to get rid of it all, but I couldn't do it. And it got to the point where I had a month clean time, and then I had a really, really bad relapse where I was in the hospital for like 2 days fighting for my life on and off. And I decided to go to detox. And I know when I was brought into this room here was the first time in my recovery before my relapse where I actually felt like I belonged somewhere and that I had a chance at life, but I wasn't ready for that. So when I ended up in detox, I was given a solution, and I took that solution. And in taking that solution, I have now found my faith. And in this past week, I have become baptized. I have recovered from I have worked my 12-step program with my sponsor, and I have been recovered. Still getting there, I still have things to work on, but, and tomorrow I'll be 5 months clean and sober for the first time in my life. I've been asked to share my story, things are, looking up in life, and that's all because I found my faith again. I found my connection with God. I pray every night. I pray every morning. And a lot of that has come to the point because I have made it to this room. A bunch of you out here too have been there for me in my journey to recovery, and hearing your story, showing me the solution and everything is a reason why I am standing here today. To be able to enjoy this sober party with you guys and enjoy my life once again. So anyway, I guess with that, I will thank you guys for listening to my quick little story. I can talk forever, most of you, and I would love to see you guys again sometime. I plan on coming back. Maybe not to speak, but to hear others. Thank you.